Hello, hello. Let's
Hello.
get get everything going live here.
All right. There we go. I am now live on
Ah,
Instagram.
me too.
And
Welcome, my dear co-host, to another Monday night of Healing the Whole Body podcast. How are you?
yeah, how was your Monday?
My Monday was good. It was pretty uneventful for a Monday, which is always nice, considering
Yeah.
everyone was talking about this whole solar eclipse that was happening. I obviously had to work today, so I wasn't out there with my glasses and watching it or anything. Of course, we weren't in a path of you know total eclipse either in Nebraska, so that made a difference too. But
Well, I am sitting here about an hour and a half north of Fort Worth, Dallas area. And I would say we've seen about 97% total. There was just a tiny sliver that didn't quite make it. But it was interesting to watch, to experience, to even feel the pressure, the different things, listening to how quiet the birds got. It was kind of a neat experience. Got a couple pictures that I was able to post on social media that I held my glasses up to my camera and then was able to take pictures. Um, but it was neat.
I was gonna say, I remember the
Oh,
one back
you're
in 2017. Um, we got out of school. Am I freezing?
you were freezing.
We ended up and we got out of school, or the kids at least. That's to say, at least the kids got out of school and they went to watch the whole thing, and it was quite a quite a spectacle, I guess, of things that were happening.
So I was actually barefoot earthing during the solar eclipse, and it really got me thinking about um, just how important it is to get sun, um, and how that relates to when I start to feel down or kind of the blues. I can pull out of it when I go out in the sun. And I thought it would be a kind of a neat topic to talk about on just kind of how important it is to get that sunlight. Um, so, what do you think? Should we have a discussion?
And that's where I still think we're having some freezing issues. I don't know if it's on my end or your end, but I think we're one of us is freezing. But anyway, that's all right. Yeah, it does really end up and make a difference. And I don't know. I was thinking about screen sharing, but I don't know that Instagrams you will be able to see it. But there's so much information that ends up and happens at different
Yep.
points of the sun rising. And that's one of the biggest things that people don't look at is this connection between circadian rhythm and those neurotransmitters. It's huge when we look at and explore the intricate workings of the biological clock, located deep within. We're talking about like the suprachiasmatic nucleus and the pituitary gland that, holds on to that melatonin to help with our sleep. But the aspect of neurobiology when it comes to circadian rhythm, and it's amazing and just absolutely uh, important to get proper circadian rhythm because our biological clock and setting this whole internal timing and regulating with the circadian rhythm from physical to mental to behavioral all within the 24-hour rhythm. And even down to, I was speaking with a coaching client in regards of hot flashes and the fact of the hormones and the body temperature, and all of that is also running on circadian rhythm. So our clocks and how the suprachiasmatic nucleus end up in twine with like the hypothalamus and the functions, the neurotransmitters. When we see certain times of the day in the light, it's like a barcode of light that ends up and comes up and over, the horizon and through the sky. And it's very vital for our functioning.
Well, and that's why, during winter time, people, get the blues, right? The seasonal depression, and they can't pull out of it because, well, there's just not a lot of sun going on in a lot of parts of the country or the world. And I know for me, and I'm sure you, Becky, when we have several days of rain, or just for you, snow, not me, you start to feel those effects, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously the light is still there, right? But it is
Right.
like filtered out. And so the amount of that, and as far as winter goes, the UV index, right? I'm further north where we lose our UVB window for months on, months at a time. Obviously not near as bad as people up in Canada, but people further south, like you in Texas and, across those lower states, you don't lose it near as long. You have much, shorter a window when it comes to that time of it being gone. And if you're closer to the equator, you even have it more, right? But when we look at how these chemical messengers, and essentially when we look at the body, we have all forms of chemical messengers that end up, and these little neurons that communicate with each other within the body. And so it's no different when we're looking at it from the side of the neurotransmitters, whether we're looking at it from the side of digestion, whether we're looking at it from the side of arthritic pain and inflammation. It's all a matter of how we are getting these chemical messengers throughout the body and utilizing these processes through the day, through the night, through the rhythm that we're looking at, and being able to identify this in this rapidly evolving field. I mean, but the biohacking world and the circadian rhythm world is just a lot more known in the last couple of years, I guess,
Yeah.
than what it ever has been, right? I mean, 3 years ago, it was all nutrition based, and I knew personally that it was beyond the nutrition because I had done full elimination. I had done all sorts of different dietary camps, and nothing was fixing my health. And it really wasn't until I looked beyond, which is why I'm so passionate and founded the Beyond Nutrition community, is because I had to look beyond. I had to go down those rabbit holes in how to utilize the hormonal signals, the neurotransmitters, because when we see UVA, it helps with like the serotonin, the dopamine. Now, this is where also the precursors for making these hormones come into play too, and why it is so important. But getting those proper hormonal signals at the right time of day, getting those key outputs, if you will, for the mitochondria to be able to communicate not only timekeeping, but where my body is, where, how present it is, how it is in regards of the energy fields around, but just really being able to grasp this biological clock on a circadian and infradian time frame, right? Being able
Right.
to really synchronize that.
Well, and one of the things too that people need to keep in mind, and I'll throw my husband under the bus because I'm married to him and I can. But the other day, well, actually, he was fixing steak tonight out on our Blackstone. And he said, go in and grab me my sunglasses. And I said, no, get some sunlight in your eyes. Like, you need that to sleep. Of course, he rolled his eyes at me, but he didn't. I didn't go in and get them, and he didn't go in and get them. And people don't. I've heard clients say to me, well, it's just too bright and it hurts my eyes. What do you say to people like that?
So if the sun is too bright, I mean, there are certain times, such as people that are deep sea fishing and they're out on water, or downhill skiing and the reflection off of the snow, right? Where they may end up in need a little bit of protection. If your eyes are sensitive, then I would end up and get out at like sunrise, where the sun is predominantly red light. And I know I see the comment over on Instagram that says seed oils and dirty carbs are not helping skin cancer. Sun is healthy. The sun has been demonized, and it really has been demonized as far as sun is bad, right? Fats are bad. Fats are good. We need to end up and get fats in. But as far as the people that have sensitive eyes, working slowly and working at those earlier hours in the day where the sun is not quite at that high intensity of, light waves or lux, I should say, the brightness, the intensity of that light. Because if we look at the sun, and don't look at the sun, let me end up and rephrase that. If we are outside and we are looking at the horizon and the sun is just coming up, it's just cresting the horizon, it's going to be more in the lower lux of light. And, somewhere, and it's very dependent on the seasons that we're in, but somewhere anywhere between roughly about 100 lux of light. The sunlight, if you are, staying up late, staying up late, waking up late, right? Say you're waking up at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning and you're not getting outside to see that sunrise. You're not getting outside to see the UVB. Your body is like trying to play catch up on hormones because, again, as we end up when we have this barcode, you should slowly also end up and have this production of hormones. And when we end up when we have that 39,000 lux of light that is, typically somewhere about solar noon or 5 hours after sunrise, it's a brighter blue intensity. So let me see if we can end up and do a presentation. We'll see if we can. I was gonna say, we'll see if we can end up and manage this on YouTube.
On all our platforms,
sorry, Instagram.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, sorry, Instagram. It isn't gonna end up and stream to you. But if you want to join us, come on over to YouTube. You will be able to see the presentation. But we're going to end up and present full screen.
Cool.
So when I talk about, can you see my screen, Sherry?
I can, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure everyone else was able to see it as well. So this is what I'm talking about. When I talk about the sun is rising over the horizon, when we end up, when we see, so someone that has sensitive eyes, if they're down here in this red and orange area, they're going to be able to view that light, view the horizon, not look directly at the sun, but view that horizon. Look at, look around. That light is still bouncing through. This light is coming through the atmosphere. So if they're seeing, midday sunlight and it's too bright and it's too intense for them, then they need to end up and be able to get out at sunrise, and they need to end up and see, it on the sunset. Now, there is very important times, right? This is where we're going to end up and build that natural vitamin D as well, because this is where our vitamin D window is open, is in this blue light wave that you end up and see in the middle, right? Our vitamin D window is, or the UVB window, depending on what your index is to produce that vitamin D. But the wider your window, the more time that UV index is going to end up and be higher, right? The light waves or the sun rays that are coming down at the earth start to end up and get wider depending on season, or they start to get closer in like summertime. That's why our UV index ends up and increases. But when we end up, wrong way. When we see it around sunrise, it is higher in the red. We get full rainbow, right? We don't just see red light at sunrise. But this is why I said it depends on what season, because summer solstice, it is a little bit lower in the lux as versus if it is, bouncing off of the snow and reflecting. But then at sunrise, it starts to end up and really balance out. And then as you start to come up over that horizon, it starts to get more in the blue intensity. We don't ever have just one wavelength. This is where getting sunlight or getting artificial lights at certain times, because they have these sharp peaks. So I'll have people ask about, certain lamps or certain lights, but they're really creating an imbalance in their body. And this can lead to depression and all sorts of other issues as well. Serotonin, imbalance, serotonin to dopamine imbalance type issues, is because they're getting this imbalance. Your cell phone, your computer, any of these type of screens are junk type lighting that are high in these peaks. These are all more of a natural sunlight depending on the timing of the day, but it does end up instead our circadian rhythm. And this is kind of where I was talking about the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And then you have the pineal gland over here, where your body needs that sunrise and it needs that communication with the sunset, so that the sunrise ends up and stores that melatonin in the pineal gland, but the sunset is what activates it to end up and kick it out in the evening time. So you can see the pink here is a rise in the melatonin. Now this is a condensed. So this looks like they're really overlapping. This is a 24-hour period condensed into a slide. So when we have high levels of melatonin, we have low levels of cortisol. But if you are seeing junk lighting at night, you're not seeing the 4 key times, which is sunrise, UVA, UVB, and sunset during the day, you create a secondary cortisol response. And that usually happens about somewhere in here. And then this hill doesn't happen, right? This production doesn't happen. Right. It's delayed. So you end up wired but tired.
Wired but tired, and you can't sleep.
Mm-hmm. Or and you end up and have biphasic sleep, where you sleep a couple hours and then you're up.
Yep.
Because, again, hormonal cascade, but because of this, you end up and you need serotonin, you need the UVA, and you need the amino acids. So getting, the meat base, getting the most bioavailable form of your amino acid precursors, so that you can see if I can zoom into this without totally cutting it off so that YouTube can see it. So your serotonin, your dopamine, all your neurotransmitters need the amino acid precursors. And when our neurotransmitters end up and play a role, not only in sleep cycle, anxiety, depression, metabolism, focus, attention, anyone that also has memory issues or mental brain fog type issues, is because you end up and need more of this alignment. You need more of these precursors. You need more of the hormonal precursor as far as, or mitochondrial import precursor, which is the cholesterol side. So people that are doing, the lower fat side of things will end up with more anxiety as well, mood type issues. But yeah, all of that is dependent on not only circadian rhythm, but what we are putting into our body. And that's one of the reasons why I do get passionate about the higher fat side of things, because you need that mitochondrial import to make your hormones. And if you are not getting, also getting the seafood in there, but if you're not getting that, your body's over here in the cortisol state, you're bypassing all of this left-hand side. So yes, it does end up a matter for men as well, because testosterone is in there. I've also known women that have low testosterone, but, being able to do the parasympathetic work. That's why when we look in the Beyond Nutrition community, we talk about breath work, we talk about tapping, we talk about meditation, getting properly aligned circadian rhythm, right? This is all important when it comes to how we are setting our rhythm and how we go through this day. And this is where, the different wavelengths of light, depending how we are, exposed to it, because there's two main pathways, through our eyes and through our skin. So there's certain times, such as sunrise, being out there, getting that light into the eye. But during the day, getting that light into the skin, getting the skin in the game, being able to, UVA and UVB, because we need to be able to pull that, up to the skin and build up that melanin in the skin so that we can be able to build that solar callus as well, but also helping to produce that vitamin D. We have the ability to naturally produce our vitamin D in not a supplemental form, but a natural form, a free form. It's just simply utilizing and maximizing the skin that you put in the game and the light that you end up in are under. And that will help a lot of your health issues too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm living testament to that. And I've been at this now for what, a year and a half, probably a year and a half now, of the importance of getting sunlight. And I've said this a billion times. I'll say it again. The first time I heard you say get out in sunrise, I thought, you are nuts, Becky. I am not waking up and getting outside in the sunrise. But what I ended up doing was starting to set my alarm clock back 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time for a couple weeks. And then now I just naturally wake up. I really don't need an alarm clock anymore. I set it just in case, right? Because I have to work. So I don't want to sleep past, but I don't. My body knows, oh, it's time to wake up and go out and get the sunrise. What do you say to people that skin cancer from having too much sun, wear long sleeves, things like that? What, in your studies, what have you learned about that?
There are times where, protecting, like wearing a hat, protecting your face, certain medications can end up and interfere. Normally medications, toxic oils, toxic food, the more you end up and are able to clean up your diet, the better your cells are going to end up and be. So that is where we end up when we see a lot of cancers, is because of the foods that we are consuming. And many people aren't making that correlation, but cancer ends up and feeds off sugar. So if we can end up and clean up, I'm not saying you have to be extreme on your cleanup, but if you can end up and clean up and get more even just to whole foods, you will end up and be better off. If you are sensitive to some of the anti-nutrients that are in certain foods, you may have to do a little bit further of an elimination. But if you're on certain medications, work with your healthcare practitioner if you have the desire to come off of those. But again, it's not necessarily the sun that is the problem. And I say that because you can be outside for too long, doing healthy sun exposure, doing it in the way. There's an app, if you need an app to remind you, there's an app that you can end up at set that will tell you, hey, flip over, hey, go inside. Right. So it's pretty much foolproof because you set your Fitzpatrick score on it. That is the tone of your skin. So how, dark your skin is. And it'll take into consideration where you live, the UV index, how much clothing you have on.
The clouds
will be another thing, that it is the clouds, the overcast. So it'll take all of that into and basically make it so it's foolproof, but slowly building up. And as you start, to make it a non-negotiable. Make it where you are being consistent with it. Consistency is key. So making it consistent, building that up, again, getting that solar callus, you're able to end up and be exposed to that sun and it not creating issues. It's not going, it, like I said, it's not always, it's not the sun that is the problem. It's typically what we are feeding ourselves from the inside out that is the problem.
Sure. Sure. And now, I mean, I've been to the beach. I've been to, to pools where I've been outside all afternoon. I wear a hat at that point. There are things you can put on your skin to help. I think you've got some essential oils, Becky, that helps with that. I've learned in my deep dive of healing my whole body that a lot of the sunscreens are toxic, and in fact most of them are toxic. Trying to find a clean one has been like hard to find. I have found them. I've had to order them online. You can't find them in your Walmarts and your drugstores and your grocery stores. You're not going to find them there. What in the aromatherapy area can you utilize?
So first I would end up and go over what not to utilize, because there are essential oils that are photosensitive. So, making sure that you're not lathering in like lemon essential oil or any of the citrus oils and going out in the sun. doTERRA does now have a sun care line, sun care line that is basically the zinc oxide. If you are someone that is super sensitive, I mean, yes, most people end up and know it as like a diaper cream, right? But it is one of those that is able to end up and be used. But really just building up that aspect of what you are doing in the day to day. I mean, I don't go outside and lather in anything. If you need like some coconut oil or something, if you're going into like a chlorinated pool, that'll kind of help block some of that chlorine from being absorbed, kind of create like a barrier. But again, I went to Florida and I really didn't use much. It was just smart, sun exposure, right?
Right.
Going in the water, setting under an umbrella if need be, just that type of thing. So I really didn't utilize much of anything as far as what I put on my skin.
I have noticed that because I go outside and I can get anywhere from about 5 minutes to 40 minutes of sun. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. But what I've noticed is every year, the first time I went out in the sun, I burnt. Now, I have darker skin. I have the olive Italian skin that really, I've never had that problem, maybe the first time of the year. Since I've incorporated being outside in the sun and getting, the morning sun, the daylight, the UV, UVA, UVB, I haven't had that problem at all.
Yeah. And that's where I talk about building up that solar callus, being able to build that up. And if you do it on a 365 day, right, you're not going to end up and be able to build that vitamin D, but you're still going to expose the skin to the elements. It's not just your skin that makes a difference. Your skin and your eyes end up and have to be on the same page, right? So getting the exposure, getting it I call it my, free cold exposure because I'm outside in the wintertime exposing the skin. I know not everyone is crazy like me and goes out, barefoot and grounds in the middle of wintertime in Nebraska in the snow. I understand that. But what I am saying is we have to be able to be in alignment, and our body has to know. It has to know that we are going into winter, just like the animals do, right? I'll relate it to the animals. The animals end up and know when we start to go into wintertime, right? If you we'll say wolves, for instance. I know, sorry folks for people that hate the wolves, but it's the best example. We'll use a bear. So a bear ends up and gains more of the fur. It maybe gains a little bit more of the fat layer to go into hibernation, right? But then when it ends up and it comes out, it sheds that. It ends up and starts to build up for the spring and the summertime, right? In a different way. But that's kind of what our body ends up and needs to do as well. We end up and we need to kind of shed what we've done throughout the wintertime. Maybe we've done a little bit more autophagy, apoptosis, that type of thing during the wintertime because, again, we've hibernated, right? But then as we start to end up and come out, it's not just about going and getting that tan in the middle of summer. Start in the spring. Your eyes and your skin need to start in the spring, not waiting till May, June, July and be like, oh, why am I burning? Start now. Maybe It's just being outside for a few minutes. Maybe it's just being, an hour or whatever a day, right? Getting those four times, hour a day, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you can end up and get, but just slowly working that in and making it sustainable. Like I said, consistency is going to end up and be your biggest friend.
Right. Well, and even, yesterday we were driving around, we're looking to purchase some land. So we were driving around looking, doing drive-bys basically, but for a number of hours. And I had the window cracked. And I did that Saturday as well, because I knew that and no sunglasses. And I knew that my eyes were receiving that light code through just this little cracked window, right? And I told clients this, well, it's too cold to go outside. Well, go sit in your car and crack your window if it's too windy or if it's whatever, because just that little bit is going to benefit you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what I end up in reference is like center blocks, right? If there's a crack between two center blocks, that light still gets through. So even because I've had people, oh, I'm busy. I've got to get to work. I've got to get to school. I've got to get here, there, everywhere, right? We're just go. In today's society, we're such a fast pace, which is a whole nother topic. But anyway, sometimes we just have to slow down and be present. But I'll get off that soapbox. But if on your commute to work, you can just open that window, you can open the sunroof, anything along those lines, it just takes a little crack. So even in the wintertime, for people that are in the colder states, even in the wintertime, it's just a little crack to be able to get that light through. It doesn't have to be, your window down and head hanging out type,
like a
summertime
dog.
vibes. Yeah, summertime vibes, but just be able to get that light through, and you will see tremendous benefit in being able to optimize your circadian rhythm.
Absolutely. And like I said, it kind of goes back to the eclipse and how important the sun is, and how it was a neat thing to see, but it's a daily thing that I've incorporated. You call that your non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. And it's made that much of a difference. I mean, in truth, I remember when I got started 2.5 years ago, Googling keto and trying to figure it out. And one of the things I kept running across was this, oh, you need to sleep. It's important to sleep. And I would think, I don't understand. How do you sleep? I can't sleep. I don't go to bed till I'm not tired. It's 1 o'clock. And, I couldn't figure it out. And then I started following social media and things like that. And that nobody was saying, like, how do you sleep? Right. But, oh, it's important. And I figured it out. And it's exactly what we've been talking about tonight, on the importance of getting that sunrise, sunset, UVA, UVB. The light code makes a huge difference, because when it gets to be, and no joke now, 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm tired. My melatonin is kicked in. It is time for Sherry to go to bed. And but it's taken me a while to get here, because consistency has been the name of my game, right? And that's what yours too, because nutrition only took me so far, and it's only took you so far. And when you are at that, now what, you have to look beyond. And that's what we do in our community, the BNC community, which stands for Beyond Nutrition, right? So we talk a lot about what we're talking about tonight. We address this stuff in detail inside the BNC community. And just so everyone knows, we made it affordable for people. It is literally $18 a month. We chose not to charge hundreds of dollars. We've chosen, why? Because we want to help everybody, right? Most people can afford $18 a month to heal. We are not dogmatic about following a certain diet. You have to be carnivore. You have to be keto. You have to be paleo. We don't do that. We have members who subscribe to a lot of different ways of eating, and but learning also how to go beyond that nutrition. And I think that's just been why we've been so why our members just absolutely love what we have to offer. And we added another coach. So there's how many coaches now, Becky?
We have 8 of us total. We have 4 guys, 4 girls. Bringing anywhere from the exercise side of things. We have 2 different meetings in regards of the synergy science behind exercise, to optimizing the nutrition based on your exercise, breath work session, accountability sessions, mental health meeting, to mindset meeting, which is the one that you end up in host. So yeah, I mean, I do the intuitive step, which we go over I don't have my right mug up here tonight. The intuitive step goes anywhere from what we're speaking about tonight with circadian rhythm and grounding and sleeping. How do we optimize that sleep? There's also the grounding, and we didn't even touch on, how that ends up and plays a factor because of the magnetic shift of the earth. But like I said, we won't go into that. To aromatherapy, I teach, about essential oils, how to use them, how to benefit our health with them. Not to, necessarily, I have my diffuser going behind me currently. So how to use them, uplifting our mood, that's another thing. We have citrus oils that will uplift. We have essential oils that will help with the immune system, anything along those lines. I feel like I'm forgetting meetings. If any of the coaches are watching and I forgot a meeting, feel free to chime in with it.
Well, and we do that. We offer so many, not to overwhelm, but to give our members a variety. Everything is recorded except for my meeting. My meeting is the safe place that you can get things off your chest, and we can help with your mindset. And that, there's just times where you just need to talk, and you can do that freely in my meeting because I will never record it. All the other ones are recorded. So you can go back and watch them. It's like, well, Sherry, I'm busy on that night. No problem. It's recorded. You can go back and watch it. So we try to, we've thought about, all possible things that people, got to pick up the kids, or it's dinner time, it's whatever. And we get that. So we wanted to offer that. Bottom line is, every coach in the BNC community, we want to help. We all would totally agree that we wish we knew the things we do now back when we got started. And we want to put our arms around you virtually and bring you alongside and help you. All the coaches in the coaching community offer one-on-one coaching. If you go to the www.bncommunity.com, you can order the swag that Becky and I are wearing. We're wearing our BNC shirts tonight. And go figure, we're wearing the same colored shirt tonight. We didn't plan it. You can join the BNC. We didn't. You can book with a one-on-one with a coach that aligns with where you want to be. So what else is on there? You can purchase the My Macro and Healing Journal that I created. That is on there. What else is on there, Becky? Your Fat Fast?
We've got the Fat Fast that I just did a masterclass. I just put a link in the chat too for it. But we've got the Fat Fast masterclass that I just got through doing the live masterclass this last Saturday. So it is a fresh cohort that is coming through it. We do have 4 follow-ups still coming through in April. So I will be, meeting with the Fat Fasters at least once a week, although we also offer, a Fat Fast macro meeting in the BNC on Mondays following this live. We do end up and have other programs, such as if you need a one-on-one breathwork session, maybe you're someone that is dealing with cortisol issues. There's a couple different options as far as consultations and choosing what breath work is there. You've got your stress management from the holidays still on there as well, but we're also coming with more programs. But there is a big red button at the top for swag. We've got cups coming, sweatshirts coming, shirts coming, a whole different design on the shirt coming as well. But then, so that's at the top. There's a big teal button in the center of the page. That's where if you click on it, all of us coaches will end up and be listed there. And you can see kind of what we have personal experience with. And then everything below that in the store link is the programs that we offer. So if you want to join us in the BNC, it's right there at the top, but then the rest of them follow suit. So
absolutely. Well, I hope everyone got some value out of tonight, talking about the sun and the importance of the circadian rhythm. And we hope we also piqued your interest about what we offer in the BNC community. We would love to talk to you more. And it's most of our meetings are not super structured, so our members feel free to ask questions, even if it doesn't relate to the topic, the meeting topic. which is great. And look, we'll repeat this information as often as you need to hear it. I needed to hear it a lot at the beginning. And poor Becky, it was like, all right, Becky, now wait a minute. And I would ask her the question again. And that's kind of how I got onto these glasses. It was like, okay, now when do I switch from this one to the orange one, the orange lens, and when do I switch to the red lens? And I think I asked you that probably, 50,000 times. But I needed to hear it over and over, so it stuck in my brain.
Mm-hmm. And the repetition of hearing it and learning it different ways, right? So it's not always presented in the same way, as far as, because there's a lot of overlap in regards, like I said, the nature's red light, right? You hear people speaking of red light and getting red light benefit, but nature provides us with red light. The
Yep.
grounding side and gaining the electrons. Yes, we gain energy by gaining these electrons, but it also does so much more for the body, whether we're building that exclusion zone water, or whether we're, reducing inflammation, or we're outside for sunrise, not only for the red light benefit, but for the sleep benefit and banking that, melatonin in that pineal gland. So there's a lot of benefits that we have to hear it a couple different times to put it into, okay, this is why I need to do certain circadian rhythm, or, grounding, or whatever, movement, exercise. And that's where, even some of our other coaches come into play as far as bringing their niche to the table.
Well, and I think too is, one of my clients who has cancer, she just finished her treatments. And one day she cried and she said, I did this to myself. And I said, well, somewhat, but we weren't taught these things. We weren't taught how important the sun is. In fact, if you watch mainstream media, they'll tell you not to go out in the sun, right? And they'll tell you a lot of things that kind of is the opposite of what's healing our bodies. It's kind of sad in a lot of ways. And you have genetics, but you're the only one that can light that genetic fire and turn it on. It's like, well, but my family has diabetes. And it's like, well, I'm going to get diabetes. And I got type 2 diabetes. And it was, that was genetics. And the problem was, yes, but it was what I was eating that turned that switch on to get me type 2 diabetes. So, and I'm not on any meds, right? I've reversed my type 2 diabetes.
And that's where many people think their genes are their destiny. And
Yeah.
just like you, I fell down that rabbit hole, right? Yep. I did the whole genetic testing. I did certain supplements because a geneticist ended up and said that's what I needed. And, I was going to end up with X, Y, and Z, instead of looking at my diet, looking at my lifestyle, looking at my environment, living a, low toxin type lifestyle, cleaning up and eating more whole foods, not eating the processed junks that come in a box, or, cakes, cookies, crackers, etc. And just really being able to reverse the fact of, I was on 7 different medications when I ended up and I started. And just by slowly switching, I now take 0 pharmaceutical medications. So, and you see my picture earlier. I haven't posted it to social media yet, but I did another purge in even some of the supplements that I was
Yeah.
taking. Not that I'm 100% against supplements, but it was supplements that I don't feel I need. If I'm able to work on things consistently and improve my health the way I have without them, I don't need them sitting on my bathroom shelf taking up space.
Right.
So they ended up and they got cut, right? We kind of had that, discussion last week, but it's one of those things where if I haven't used it in, 2 years, 6 months, some of them I would say 6 months. But most of them might have been, a couple of years. Throw it out. I don't need it. And I'm thriving obviously without it, right? So
Right.
but yes, join us in the BNC community. I know I've got to jump over and do the next meeting over there as well. We appreciate each and every one of you hanging out with us tonight. Next week we do have a guest coming on, so mark the calendars for that. I will be getting information out for that guest. So make sure you bring your questions.
Absolutely. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review. It helps us out. We don't have sponsors. So we're not, brought to you by so-and-so. Like, you don't hear us say that. So we do appreciate you definitely liking, subscribing, and commenting in any of the platforms that you're listening to us. That would be greatly appreciated. Well, Becky, this has been fun.
As always, my dear, I love our Monday nights. And like you said, hopefully we end up at provide value. If you liked like the slides that were shared or anything along those lines, feel free to join us over in the BNC community and would be happy to welcome you.
All right. Well, let's jump on over to our meeting, Becky, and get our next meeting going.
Sounds good, my dear. I will see you in the BNC community. The rest of you have a wonderful night.